This is Dan here from Vagabond Buddha. I'm in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Just completed my run, walking down the beach, and I wanted to share some thoughts about the idea that the people you love, the people you care about, the people you run into in your life that are having trouble because they believe their mind often are in a lot of pain, and they don't have the distinction yet for understanding that they are their consciousness, and their mind is just one of the things that they can pay attention to. And they may know that, they may have read that, but they may not have had the experience of it yet. They may not be living that distinction in the present moment. It might be an analytical idea they have, and so when you see them in pain, it can be painful to watch them. And so you might feel the compassionate thing to do would be to try to share with them what being in the present moment feels like, and why some of those thoughts they're having would go away, and they would just be in a almost consistent state of joy if they could find their way to an experiential awareness of being and having a mind rather than being their mind. And so compassion might tempt you to share it, but the truth is it's not really. There's no shortage of speakers out there. There's only a shortage of listeners, and so you are, since you're close to this person, you're probably not in the set of people that they can listen to. Even if they are ready to listen, which it'd be hard for you to tell that. And so my first 5 years of having this experience or self-realization or whatever you want to call it, I tried to tell a few friends about it, and that never worked. What worked was just pointing them in the direction of someone else who they weren't close to that they could listen to. And so that's my recommendation. The other thing is there's behind that is there's a bit of arrogance, if you will, in this idea that you're enlightened and that others aren't, which is in the early days of your awareness. And so at the exact time when you are trying to help others through your compassion, you stink of arrogance. So it's not a good combination. When you first become aware, your mind can attempt to use it as something unique about you and cool. And that, of course, is that is a comparative evaluation of your worth on the planet, which is sort of in the mind domain. It's kind of like gathering assets or net worth, or that kind of thing. And spiritualism is in a different plane. And so if you stink of the mind when you're trying to teach someone about spiritualism, it's pretty much going to block the door for them. So later, or even if you're wiser than I am, you might learn in the early days that the awareness is a grace. It's not an ability you have that others don't. It's a grace of circumstances that allowed you to be with information in a new way, with perception in a new way, that saw that your mind was sort of playing a game in your life about win and lose and who's better and all the things the mind does. And that self-realization really is just an observation of that. It's not a make wrong. You're not going to make your mind wrong. For being a mind, humans have a point of view and a memory, and they organize information in ways that are self-grandizing. That's just the way we are. So you don't need to judge yourself about that, but there's a bit of an attitude of grace, of ability when you're in the early days that over time is replaced with an awareness of grace. It's a grace that you are in the present moment, and so what I'm getting at is, I think if you just live in that place and develop your own ability to develop your own self-awareness, people around you will notice and ask about it. But my experience is that if they're a mind-engaged human without awareness that they have a mind, that they're not their mind, and even some that are self-aware from time to time will not be able to listen to someone so close to them or hear, at least in the early days. Later on, once you have a friend who's self-realized, you'll have some pretty cool conversations, but that's not something you don't want to try to get them there yourself, so I would point them at someone. If for no other reason that if you're an evangelical, you actually could push them away from that when you have the stink of mind in the early days and the arrogance of, instead of grace, of your own enlightenment. So anyway, I would just be and point at others. I used to point people to Werner Erhard. He was the only one I knew of other than Buddha back in this 20, 30 years ago. And now you have people like Mooji, Mooji, who's on YouTube. You have Echardt Tolle, which is on YouTube. Papa G, a string of other ones that are teaching about self-realization. There's 100 different ways to name it, but that's what I do now. Just point to people. Thanks for listening. This is Dan, Vagabond Buddha.